More than $100 billion of assets was being managed by the Swiss unit of HSBC back in 2007, and they've unveiled the accounts associated with more than 100,000 people across 200 nations. Inside this, John, convicted cocaine dealers, terror suspects. There seems to have been significant profits made by HSBC in handling secret accounts from an array of criminals.
Back now on America's Forum, we just heard from Bloomberg TV's European business correspondent Caroline Hyde on the British banking company's allegedly illicit dealings with the criminal world. A recent report found HSBC profited from doing business with a questionable bunch, arms dealers who funneled mortar bombs to child soldiers in Africa and traffickers in blood diamond, not to mention other international outlaws. Our Department of Justice here in the U.S. is now investigating the banking giant for a list of infractions. To talk more on money matters, we are pleased to be joined by Tom Hutchinson, the senior editor of the High Income Factor newsletter at Moneynews. He joins us from Newsmax, New York. Tom, you heard the list of criminals holding private HSBC accounts. How much trouble will it put that financial institution in?
I think the broader picture is that these large Western banks are in regulatory hell right now. I mean, they're largely responsible and are considered to blame for the financial crisis. But in the years following the crisis, they had to be sort of nursed back to health, and the politicians couldn't lay into them. But now that they're healthier and they've recovered, the regulatory environment for them is going to be fierce. It's popular for any politician to take a swipe at them, and you're going to see a lot more of it.
Well, mindful of that, Tom, and I hear from a lot of bankers, small bankers are upset with what's going on in terms of regulations and what they consider over-regulations of financial houses. But let's separate out the question of regulation with the notion of criminal penalties. To have the DOJ involved in this prompts this question. To a certain degree in financial houses, how responsible are bankers for knowing the business of their clients? In a sense, has it ever been thus? Might that be the HSBC defense when you get right down to it?
It could be. Obviously they're clamping down on that. With the financial crisis, the scandals, Madoff, the war on terror, and everything has to be kept closer track of. And I think that they're even clamping down on the Swiss banks, which for years had been the place to put ill-gotten gains, and that's coming undone somewhat also. And I think you're going to see more and more of that.
And Tom, I guess it was Willie Sutton who said he robbed banks because that was where the money was. But this thing always seems to come down to taxes. HSBC is being charged with aiding customers in avoiding taxes, helping to conceal millions of dollars of assets. Your take on that charge?
I think it's a serious charge. And remember, HSBC is not a Swiss bank. There's very little tolerance for it if the bank isn't even Swiss. The Swiss are starting to come around, but in this regulatory environment, HSBC is going to have to answer for that, as are any other bank that handle that sort of money.
Well, let's turn to tax policy. I won't say it'll be more friendly to consumers, but something that those of us who may not be dealing with accounts just chock full of millions of dollars might enjoy. Forbes.com recently published an article on the benefits of not filing your taxes early. It would seem counterintuitive with the IRS, but what is your notion of the right day to file taxes? Is it first, last, and always April 15th on an individual basis?
I believe the best time to file taxes is as soon as you can do it correctly. The Forbes article pointed out that you don't want to be early and not have all your 1099s and have to file an amendment because you didn't get it right. Obviously, you don't want to file too early, so that happens. But, you know, when you have all your information, the earlier the better. I mean, obviously, if you're getting a refund, you know, you don't want... you want to get that money as soon as possible, and if you have to pay, you don't want the government to earn interest on it. But really, you get it done earlier, it's a lot less stressful. You know, I've been that 22 and 23-year-old who was running to the post office at 12 o'clock at night on April 15th to file at the last minute. I don't like doing it that way anymore. And I think people, you want to cut down on stress and not wait till the last minute.
And the thing I heard is if you filed an extension to like October 15th, and a lot of times guys end up doing that with their accountants because they basically haven't gotten out of that model of being 22 or 23. They just can't get to the post office in time. But if you do that October, punt it 6 months, you're opening yourself up to the likelihood or increased likelihood of an audit. Is that been what you've heard as well?
Yes, it is. I mean, any confusion, anything that might get you on the IRS radar screen, you want to try to avoid, if possible. If you can't help it, you can't help it. But to the extent you can, get it in on time and don't wait till the last minute, because you don't know what will happen in the last couple of weeks to file. You could get distracted. It's a good idea to get it done early.
In the words of that immortal economist Barney Fife, nip it in the bud. Now, let's go to one thing. We got about a minute left before we have to part company. Oil prices. Prices at the pump are going up. Are we going to see oil begin trading at higher prices again in terms of commodities?
Well, I think that it's pretty much agreed by everyone who follows it that oil prices should trend higher over the course of the year. Now, they might go lower still before then. They might hover around this level for a while. But remember, when oil prices go down as much as they have, and I think they went down as much as 60% from the highs in the spring and summer. When oil prices go down, what happens? Production stops. They shut down certain wells that aren't profitable anymore. If it costs you $80 a barrel to get it out of the ground and you can only sell it at $50, it's not profitable. So some of the production is shut down. At the same time, with the lower prices, there tends to be more demand for oil. So lower prices are met with less supply and more demand, which drives it back up.
Goes back up. And Tom, we appreciate that. We're out of time. We'll have you back real soon.